In this video, we're going to verify inverse function ordered pairs. It says, suppose f is a one-to-one function with the following values. F of 9 equals 2, f of negative 12 equals 6. So what does one-to-one function mean? One-to-one function means that for every input, you have exactly one output. And you determine if there's a one-to-one function by using the horizontal line test to check. Now, they don't give us a function, so it's hard to see if it passes the horizontal line test. But they're saying that there is a one-to-one function, which means it's going to have an inverse. So you can't have an inverse without having a one-to-one function. Now, what happens when you have an inverse? Well, an inverse is meant to undo operations, basically. So like the inverse of multiplication is division. The inverse of addition is subtraction. And if you're undoing operations, basically you're switching the inputs and outputs. So if you have a function that has a table, we're going to just say that we have a function that has this table. And it's like 1 to 3, 2 to 4, 3 to 5. Then the inverse of that function has to undo those operations. So the inverse of that function is going to be 3 to 1, 4 to 2, 5 to 3. So the thing you notice about inverse functions is the domain and range, they flip. So whatever your inputs were for your original function, they become the outputs for the inverse function. And the outputs for the original function become the inputs for the inverse function. So when they say f of 9 equals 2, and they say, what's the f inverse of 2? Well, the f inverse of 2 is going to be 9. It's going to be the exact opposite of what the original function was. So an input of 9 for the original gave you 2 for an output. So an input of 2 into the inverse is going to give you 9 for the output. And then f inverse of 6, you've got an inverse of, or you got an input of negative 12 into the original function, which gives you an output of 6. So the inverse of 6 is going to give you an output of negative 12. Because they're going to undo those operations. You're going to go back to the original input. So, domain and range flop with inverse functions.